Hi, this is Ed Crowe. Thanks for joining me today. This is actually a recorded webinar because I am going to be gone when next week or the week you're listening to this, I guess. So I won't be around. So I didn't want anybody to think I was being rude and not taking questions. But unless computer recorded voice Ed can figure out questions, we won't be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is today it's going to be short. It is a good topic that we get a lot of questions about, I think anyway. And we'll get started. So a couple quick things, like always, we do record these. So if you register for a webinar, you will get the recording sent to you. If you can't attend, no big deal, you'll still get the recording. And then also we put all our webinars on YouTube. So if you want to go watch any of our old webinars, do so on YouTube. And you can watch it there. And to get there, you just can go to @Crowe Medicare, or you can Google YouTube Crowe and Associates if you want. All right, so usually I would also add that I'll answer questions at the end. I will not be, though, but certainly, hopefully I'll cover most of the topics for you here. So our agenda, we're going to talk about the Medicaid Redetermination for 2023, talk about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which kind of created this in the first place, the Consolidated Appropriations Act. I'll give you some perspective here in a minute. Medicaid numbers, and by that I mean numbers of what's out there, people on Medicaid, people who will be affected by this, that kind of thing. The process that the states will likely use to recertify those on Medicaid, and then talk briefly about state funding by the government. This webinar will only be about 10 minutes long tops. I wrote 5 minutes on there. That's a bit of a lie. It'll probably be 10. Okay, so the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, that put a moratorium on states recertifying people for the last 3 years for Medicaid. So basically, people who are on Medicaid could not be recertified the last 3 years because of that act. The idea was for those who were struggling during Corona, loss of jobs, that kind of thing, they decided, Congress decided to make it so the states could not kick people off once they were on. The normal process for somebody on Medicaid is an annual recertification. And there's two types of recertifications, usually. Obviously not during this 3-year period. But the normal types, the ones we're used to for Medicaid recertification, are passive. Passive recertification means, and a lot of you have probably dealt with this, the client doesn't have to do anything. They just get a letter saying, hey, you're all good. You're ready to go for next year. It's a confusing letter for sure, but nonetheless, it is saying that they're all set, and they get confused because it looks like it's the current date, but really it's for the following year. But the way they decide to do passive recertifications, it varies by state, but more or less it's people with lower incomes that they know qualify and people who are disabled. They do passive recertifications on. Manual recertification is those who aren't auto renewals, and those are the ones that get the letter in the mail saying, hey, you have to fill this out and send it back. Tell us if anything changed. If you don't, you're going to get kicked off. So those are the two types, passive and manual. It's estimated that and this is a big number, it depends on the source you look at, but it's all over the place. It's estimated that 9 to 14 million people are receiving Medicaid that no longer qualify based on income. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. So you had the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which didn't allow them to recertify people. And then you had the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022 that took the prior act's power away, and it said that states can begin recertifying people as of April 1st, 2023, so a couple days ago. Certainly doesn't mean that the states are prepared to or will recertify immediately. In fact, most will not. It just means that they're able to again. So it does dictate a lot of things. Like one is they can only recertify those that are not passive renewals. So if somebody's a passive renewal, very low income or disabled, they're going to get a passive renewal. It doesn't really matter to them. So while the states have a window of time where they can do these recertifications, they will likely be motivated by the lowering of government funding back to the pre-COVID levels. So basically, the government always helps fund the states for Medicaid programs in their state. but they raised that funding during COVID, and that is going to go away. It's going to go back down to normal. I'll hit those numbers near the end of the presentation. So let's talk Medicaid numbers. So it is estimated, and this seems to be a pretty solid consensus by multiple sources. It's estimated that 92 to 93 million people are on Medicaid. Then again, it's estimated that 9 to 14 million of them no longer qualify, so they shouldn't be on, but they are because of the fact the states can recertify. There's a concern that there will be an estimated additional 6 million that may lose Medicaid due to what they call administrative churning. I had no idea what that term meant, but simply means that errors in the redetermination process might lead to 6 million people being disenrolled. And really, to say errors isn't necessarily correct. AKA, what they mean is they're afraid people will ignore the notices. So people on Medicaid who should be on Medicaid might get a redetermination notice now for the first time in 3 years, and they will ignore it. So they call it administrative churning, saying errors, but really, I think to a greater extent, it will be people just not responding to it. Nonetheless, you're talking about a large number of people that currently have Medicaid, and that could be full Medicaid. It could be a QIMBY that have it now that won't potentially in the future. Okay, let's talk about government funding and why we think the states will be in a bit of a rush to recertify these people and get those ones that are on there off. So during COVID, the states enhanced their funding to states by 6.2% for Medicaid, just across the board. And that's been going on for about 2.5 years now. That number is going to go down to 5% in April, so that the state's going to be getting less money. And then it's going down to below 2. I said below 2, but I looked it up since. It's going down to 1.5% in June of 2023. So I put the bullet on there. It may lead to states recertifying people more quickly. I think it's pretty clear that it will lead to that. So before we get to the Secretary's powers, one thing just to think about to put this in perspective, you got to remember that when they put this moratorium in place, you had a lot of people when COVID came out that might have lost jobs, in some cases high-paying jobs. And that moratorium also didn't let them look at assets. So let's say somebody had a high-paying job, they lost it for a couple months, but then got another job that paid just as much. But in the meantime, since they didn't have income any longer, they applied for Medicaid. So you potentially have many people that are making substantial incomes that are on full Medicaid right now. So, it's important for the Medicaid redetermination, obviously, to take those people off. And you saw, they estimate 9 to 14 million are on there right now that don't qualify by income, and some of them don't qualify by a long shot. They've just kind of been able to stay on there because nobody's been checking, or nobody's been allowed to, I should say. Anyway, that's the point behind this. And then with the states getting less money, that's going to be a bigger motivation for them to recertify and make sure the appropriate people are on there. So in the Act, the Secretary of Health and Human Services has a lot of enforcement powers. Basically, they're powers that that the Secretary has to make sure that states are adhering to the federal eligibility redetermination rules. The government has criteria. It's intended to keep it fair for people on Medicaid. And if the states aren't following those criteria, they can be barred from continuing to terminate members, even if they don't qualify. So if you have a state that isn't using the renewal process that's to the government's satisfaction, or they're falling outside of the redetermination rules, and that the Secretary determines that, the Secretary has power to stop them from kicking people off in their state, even if they should be off. So what's the process for the redetermination? I already talked about it a bit, but passive renewals for those at lower income levels and disabled, so they won't have to fill anything out. They're just going to get renewed. Recertification needed for everybody else that isn't a passive renewal. It's about 20% of the population. There are concerns with this. There's concerns about those not responding to the information requests, meaning the states will send this out by mail saying, hey, like in the past, prior to COVID, hey, fill this out or you're going to lose Medicaid. There's a big concern. They'd call this administrative churning or errors, but really the big concern is that people will just ignore it. and lo and behold, suddenly if they're ignoring their mail and they don't fill out the request, even if they qualify for Medicaid, they may get kicked off. And then they're also concerned that there's a lack of provisions for those that are currently undergoing medical treatment. In other words, you got something major going on, you're on medical treatment, but you don't qualify for Medicaid. There's concerns that there's nothing allowing those people to stay on until their treatment is completed. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's what this means. It's just an act that allowed them to start recertifying again. States will not be completely uniform in how and when they do this. There has been talk that some states may spill late into 2023 before they even start this process. But it will be, I think, you'll see a lot of variability from place to place, from state to state, rather, I should say. Okay, so what impact does this have on Medicare agents? Well, if you have dual clients that are in full duals, that are in dual plans, you may have some clients that will no longer qualify once they do the redetermination, and they'll be disenrolled. You may have members that are on QMB only dual plans, so not a full dual but a QMB plan, and they may lose their QMB status. That'll probably be more likely than the first scenario. I think you'll see a lot of states that have higher QMB income limits will probably shed a lot of those people, and they'll no longer be eligible for that QMB only plan. It's thought that this will probably increase ACA enrollment, or more specifically, it will increase commissionable ACA enrollment agents. So people who were on full Medicaid now suddenly will not be, and they will have to enroll in a regular subsidized ACA plan that could generate a lot of business for agents. And back to the Medicare people for a minute, those who have members that do get a status change, they lose Medicaid or they lose their QMB, keep in mind, if a change in help status creates an SEP for that person. So the usual SEP rules are, if we think about it, we say, well, wait, that's only in the first 3 quarters, but that's actually for people that currently have help. They have the first 3 quarters of the year to make a change once a quarter. They can't make a change in the 4th quarter for those who have a status change. So if you gain or lose Medicaid, you still could make a change potentially in the 4th quarter then. So it's a all-year SEP for those people. That's all I had. It was kind of quick and to the point. I said thanks for attending. There's really kind of funny because there's nobody on this, but I just say that anyway, I guess. Remember, the recording is on YouTube at Crowe Medicare. We will usually do a Zoom meeting on Fridays at 1. That will not be the case this week or next. I just put a reminder in there about marketing money requests. If you don't know what I'm talking about, give us a call. But obviously, we have carriers currently. We have marketing money available. And we do anticipate, now that it's final, that the government is going to fund. There was talk about them reducing the reimbursement to Advantage plans. That is not the case. It was increased 3.3%. That's finalized for 2024. So we do anticipate having marketing money available for AEP. And again, we have marketing money with some carriers right now available to agents. We have a new agent portal coming out. I did mention that in the earlier webinar for those who were on last week. Basically, it's a portal. Once it's ready, we'll consolidate carrier commissions and enrollments from all carriers onto one portal. Each agent will have one at no cost, and do then look at commission statements all on one statement from everybody, look at enrollments all on one statement for all carriers, and it will have features in there that will check to see, do an error report and see who you didn't get paid on. So I know I talked to a lot of people, and myself included in the past, where it was such a hassle to go through and see who you did and didn't get paid on to check your commission statements. This will do it for you. It'll do a lot of other cool things too. I would usually answer questions here, but let's just pretend we didn't have any. It was a great presentation, no questions at all. Other than that, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. We'll be back to live webinars the following week. And like always, if you have any suggestions or ideas for webinars that you'd like to see, please send them in, and I'd be happy to do one on the topic. Thanks. I hope everybody has a great week, and appreciate you coming on. Have a great day.